Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Liz.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. How did it go with the live stream?
Yeah, it worked out, although I'm not sure if you heard that last second we heard about the changes at LinkedIn. So we were not sure if it's gonna work last second. So but we tried it and it worked. So
What?
oh yeah. Rune called me literally 5 minutes before and said, "Oh, by the way, we might be having these problems." So I was like, should I tell you guys?" I'm like, no, probably not.
Holy shit.
Yeah, apparently they made some changes last second. So, hey,
Uh,
Steven.
hey, Stephen. Yeah, so we're gonna get
I
going
think you're muted.
shortly. I always do a 3, 2, 1 because like I edit these, so I want to make it as easy as possible.
Sounds
Hi,
good.
Martin. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, no worries. It's a pleasure. Yeah, I
Liz, I'm
love
going
you.
to turn my camera off so you don't see my hobo beard.
Aha.
I didn't even
Yeah.
notice that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this beard is strategic, so
Who
hiding
wants
all
to
the
shave
unnecessary
anymore?
skin.
I don't know, Martin. Shaving is overrated. It
And,
really is. All right.
Yeah, this is definitely COVID born, and it stayed because
and it's
now
here
I
to
really
stay.
just don't want to shave.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that in general, wearing loungewear, I think I have more joggers than I do have actual dress pants at this point. All right.
There you
I'll
go.
leave you guys to it. I'll turn off my video. Thanks again,
Sure.
Martin.
So thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so you ready to rumble?
Ready to rumble.
All right. All right, we'll go 3, 2, 1. All right. So, first question is, what is your name and what is your connection to marketing, education, and AI?
Hey Liz, thanks for having me on. My name is Martin Pietrzak. I come from Pinch Marketing. We are a B2B digital marketing agency specializing in the tech sector. As with your intro, and yeah, it's a competitive space, as you know. So we have to be always up and up on the new technologies. So I think there's two connections to AI. One is our clients are very much in the race to, develop their own AI technologies.
Yeah.
So we have to be up and up on those technologies so we know how to market them. On the flip side, we're heavy users of AI now because, I think we're a pretty small, agile agency, and we are always looking for opportunities to improve our operations. Um, new ideas. So I think, and then maybe even launching our own AI services. So yeah, that's our connection.
Cool. Yeah, because like we've been talking to different agencies and there's like a mixed bag. Like I talked to Dan from Antisocial last week.
Hmm.
And like they're using a lot of Gen AI stuff as like thought starters and like to kind of get their creative juices flowing, but they
Hmm.
also use it with a grain of salt. So I guess from my perspective, I was just wondering like, do you guys like how are you using it right now and how are you thinking you want to use it in the future? And
Good
that
question.
answer would probably change like next week, but
Yeah, as you could say, a big grain of salt, and it changes all the time, right? It's blue this week. I don't know. I think we've dabbled in a lot of different AI technologies. We've tried it using as a primary writer to see if it does a good job as an alternative to human writers.
mm,
That didn't quite go as we hoped or expected. So we're very much still working with professional writers. We feel that it's just there's something about the human touch in that regard. However, what we found interesting couple use cases that we use it quite a bit, and that's with QA. So for instance, a lot of our clients, we have to adhere to their brand guidelines. We have to make sure we match their tone, their language they use. There's a lot of different rules and of how we're supposed to apply what's being written. So what we found is that, and then we have a plethora of writers that we work with, right? So we have multiple writers, and it's always difficult to keep them up and up on all these standards. And a lot of these brand guidelines are like, 20, 30 pages long sometimes. So what we found is we we uploaded the brand guidelines to, to the AI tools like ChatGPT, and we said, hey, here is the copy, here's the article, here's a piece of content. Check that piece of content against the brand guidelines, and
Nice.
then, but don't make any changes. Just highlight sections or thoughts or provide some commentary around, where changes might be required and why. And you know what? It did really well. So I think it's a fantastic tool for that. And
So
y-
sorry, I just
mhm,
the redlining thing. I've
mhm.
never tried that before. That's a good idea. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Like
Yeah, no,
here, like
it works. It
give
works
give
well.
suggestions. Yeah.
If you like, I can give you my prompts after. But basically, I think the key here is not to have the AI rewrite anything for you, but rather just, highlight sections and say, why are you recommending those changes? And I found a really, really good job with that. It doesn't catch all the issues. And I even say, oh, by the way, I know this client likes lowercase, and there's periods at the end of each sentence after headings. And then it says, "Oh, I apologize," and then it just revises and says, "You're absolutely correct," and then just does a revision. So, um, obviously, I don't trust it 100%, but I think, like you said, it's a great starting point. So that's
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Because like sometimes I see like I don't know, I think I've told you about how it hallucinates on me and like
yeah.
I use Claude a lot. I don't know if you've used Claude. Um,
Claude, I think I've dabbled with it a little bit.
I'm kind of
I
obsessed with it right now.
Are you? I'm enjoying Perplexity quite a bit lately, especially for my personal life. Although I do sometimes like some features of it that I don't see in ChatGPT. I like the references immediately of the content, so I can double check you almost immediately where the source of the content is. Mm, so I really enjoy that. So I'm finding myself to doing it personally. I know you sent me the questions ahead of time, so I even looked up the history of what I did personally, just to kind of curious, like what have I been using, AI for in my personal life. So I could tell you that in a second. But um, yeah, so that's from a professional use case. I think that's where it comes in. The other one is converting long form content into short form content. So I think as much as
Yeah.
AI might be missing still some creativity and that thought and that leadership aspect, the thought leadership aspect in the long form piece of content. It does a really good job at converting a longer piece of content into smaller pieces, like perhaps ads or summaries, audiograms, scripts, things like that. So again, not final, but it's a great starting point. So it does shorten and increase our productivity quite a bit.
So do you guys upload briefs? Sorry, I'm going off script here. I do.
I
Do
knew
you
it.
guys I know, just trying to throw you off. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just more curious because like do you guys like upload briefs? Because like with Claude, they have projects, which is kind of like
Mhm,
using a GPT. And so I've been doing all sorts of product projects with, client work
mhm.
and I'll upload reference material. I don't like Claude for research, but I like it as my little sidekick. Like, hey, what do you think of this slide? And I'll upload, like, I'll do a screen shot of a slide and it'll be like, I like it, but here's how you can make it even better. And I'm like, see, it's like it's like that manager I never, had that's like super helpful and you know what I mean?
I
Like,
do it. I do it all the time. Yeah. So
like,
either I'll do a reply to important client meeting. I
yeah.
think we all kind of use it to summarize a lot of the meeting notes or something
Oh,
like
for
that,
sure.
and identify highlights, learnings, and things like that. But when I'm drafting an email to a client, um, I reference the previous communications with the client. I'm saying, hey, I want to make sure I address all the concerns or the questions. Does this match? Does it address everything that the client is looking for?
Yeah.
And I find it does a good job at sort of highlighting some areas to say, you know what, you've touched all of it except for these couple things. So, and here's how you can improve. I've done it with PowerPoints as well and presentations. Um, it works not all the time, but it works. It's certainly it's a good starting point if especially if mm, you have a blank screen to looking at or just maybe bullets that just don't make sense. So it's really good to validate it and then maybe put it in word paragraph sentences.
Awesome. Yeah. Like, I mean, I've talked to people that are just like, people are starting to relax with the whole thing. Like they're realizing, AI is not going to replace us, just yet. And it's like I'm easing into how it's like kind of like my little sidekick
Yeah, Little Psychic is good call. I
for
mean, it's a
now.
pretty damn powerful sidekick. I'm amazed from time to time, where it's going. I know one of the questions I think you said is like, the future, and I've been to some events recently during Collision Conference in Toronto, and there's some really innovative use cases coming out, and so yeah, I'm eager to see where that goes. But yeah, going back to, how am I using it in professional life? I pulled a list of, okay, so I pulled a list of some ideas of some
Yes.
things that I've done in just a few days ago. So here they are. Um, there was the hurricane going through Mexico. One of my clients got stuck there and she was barely got in. And I remembered I was in Mexico years ago and I'm like, what was the name of that hurricane? So I literally prompted, I think ChatGPT saying, name all the hurricanes that have hit the Mexican Riviera coast going back 20 years. And it actually did it. So I was actually there in 2005, and it was called, I think it was Wilma. So there you go. I thought that was pretty interesting use case. I'm pretty sure that would take a long search to get that level of research done. So that was
Mhm.
one. The other one was I have two cats at home. So and one of them was feeling a little sick, and we were feeding it water just to make sure he's hydrated. And I asked this question: how much water should a cat drink every day in milliliters? So there you go. And apparently it's 20 milliliters per kilogram of a cat. So just FYI for
Oh,
you
wow.
cat lovers out there. Um, and then the other one was please, this was actually an Airbnb stay that we went to, and I put some bullets and I said I didn't have time to write a review, and I said, hey, please write an experience to keep a good balance of positive and negative feedback based on the feedback I'm just giving you here to this Airbnb. It was not the most pleasant stay, so I wanted to balance the tone so I don't come off too negative. So yeah, that was another use case. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think it's good for like just like helping you with little things that would take you half an hour and it's brought it down to 5 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, for me, I feel like I can just work a lot more efficiently
Hmm.
and I don't stress as much about, all of this or more like mundane work. I can think about like more of like for example, I'm putting a pitch together and with ChatGPT, I can just kind of like put in all the information, it spits out stuff, and then it helps me then kind of compartmentalize how I want
Hmm.
to actually visualize the pitch. So it just really, really helps that way.
You know, speaking of which, I don't know if that's something that might be beneficial to you. I pulled the different resources of, like from Mars and Investors Group, and there's a few different, startup organizations that house a lot of interesting pitch decks from the past. I didn't do the same thing for a pitch. I did something similar, but I said, hey, taking the sources from these following sources, look at the best examples, and find the most commonalities between, the pitches or these ideas or these presentations or out and provide me with an outline of what are the key elements that should be covered. So again, it helps me with the starting point to say, okay, oh, here, based on everything that you've given us, the best possible use cases and ideas are the following, and gives me the outline of what I should be thinking about in that pitch or presentation or some kind of script, things like that.
So that's so funny because like I do the opposite. Like I
Did
do the
you?
and then I like and I'll use it for some light like whatever, and then I'll do the pitch thing, and then I upload it again and go, okay, what do you think of that?
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
That I think it works both ways. I think depending. I sometimes I have the blank page syndrome, hitting me, and I'm like, oh, what do I go? Where do I go from here? So that's problematic. But so I use it for that purpose. I don't ask it to fill out the pitch, obviously, for me, um, but give me something so I can start filling the blanks, right? And
right,
fill the gaps. So it's been
cool.
beneficial that way.
That's awesome. All right. So, what do you fear most about the changes that AI is going to bring? Is any fears there? Could be anything.
You know, I right now everybody's talking about AI as a tool to help us, like you said, the sidekick, um, but what I'm also seeing is that I'm fearful that right now we hope that it's going to help us find some efficiencies, operational efficiencies, become, take the mundane tasks. What I fear the most, that I think that is going to take some of the creative work away. I think that's the one I would hate to lose the most. Because I feel like I think that's where we shine, and that's where the people I collaborate with in the marketing field, that ability to innovate, the ability to experiment, the ability to come up with these new interesting ideas. I would hate for that to be taken over by AI. I would love that to be kept within, the capable hands of the marketers I work with. I think, and the artists and a lot of people out there who I hope will not, you know, lose those capabilities. And I'm thinking as a parent too, like with my kid, like I'm starting to see that he's using ChatGPT as a writing tool. I hope that in a few years' time he will actually know how to put a sentence together without AI. So I want, yeah, AI not to keep us lazy, I suppose, and keep us thinking and being, you know,
I
make
think
sure we use that head of ours.
yeah, like I think we were talking about that before, like the critical thinking piece we cannot lose.
Hmm. Exactly. And so
Like
I think
once
that's the biggest
you lose
fear.
that, then it just yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. We'll see, right? I mean, I think there's some of those jobs will be lost, some of those will not. I think we have an opportunity to, I hope personally that if I can operationalize some of and find some efficiencies with AI, then I can do more of the innovative stuff, more experimentation, and bring more value to my clients and our own operations. So,
Yeah, totally. I know, because like I've talked to creative directors and stuff, and a lot of them say, like I'll use it if, I'm doing I need a rendering of some object and I need to
mhm,
put it in a photo, and it's the rough
mm,
draft of a concept. Or like I have heard, and I've mentioned this on the community before. There's one creative director who said that they actually will have the client use ChatGPT to help visualize, or they'll use like Midjourney or whatever to help visualize the concept that they're trying
mm,
to convey in their brief. And obviously the ad will look nothing like that. But sometimes I find when you have a client and they send you a brief and then you show them the first concepts and they're like, well, that's
mm,
what I was thinking. And I was like, well, that was the brief. And I'm wondering if sometimes people there's that visual connection is not
mm,
doesn't connect with what they're putting on the page. And so I thought that was an interesting one because I've actually been in those scenarios where the client's like, well, that's not what I wanted. And it
mm.
was like,
Yeah, getting people on the same page is so hard sometimes, especially in the beginning stages, right? Once,
yeah,
so I
here's a
comp
pen, here's a paper, draw what you were thinking.
yeah, sometimes I think, our clients are expecting to read their minds, but that's part of the magic in marketing,
Well,
right?
that's yeah, I
Mind
think
reading.
because that's the thing. If a client has an idea in their mind and you say, hey, why don't you try putting it to practice through using AI, it can help them look at it and go, you know what? Actually, now I think about it, that doesn't work. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because then that mitigates the amount of versioning that they might make you want to do. So anyway,
Yeah, I
that's
hear you. Makes a lot of sense, actually. I like that concept. Just like, yeah, the getting started part. I was even thinking when you were talking about that, like even in the prior sections, like getting to the sale part, right? Because, as marketers, a lot of times we have to make proposals, pitch some ideas. I think there's some opportunity there for AI just to, help us out or just to speed that up a little bit, just to get
yeah,
from that pitch or that proposal to the yes. And then, like you said, maybe making sure that we capture the essence of the client's need or what the requirements are.
yeah, totally. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Next is what do you hope AI can improve our lives with in the near future?
Hmm. Yeah, I thought about this a little bit, and I'll tell you what really stuck out to me. Well, I went to this Beta Kit event called Beta Kit Talk AI in Action.
Okay.
And they had a panel, so I have a bit of a cheat sheet here. Dr. Anna Goldenberg, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. She's the co-chair of AI in medicine for kids at the Sick Kids Research Institute.
Cool.
And she talked about essentially how AI can help in healthcare. And I feel like, you know what? I'm not saving any lives, but if AI can be used to actually save lives, that would be amazing. She talked about things like, how AI can help go through, all the data sets and increase the speed to the right diagnosis,
Right.
more accurate personalized treatment plans, managing healthcare resources. And I thought, oh my God, like that would be fantastic. I mean, I think Canada has a fantastic healthcare system, but it can always be better, especially getting to the specialists. And this, I think, it has an opportunity to really help literally save lives. And I feel that I think that's the biggest hope for me. I lost my mom to cancer 20 years ago, and I know it makes me think like, what if her diagnosis came months or even a year earlier? Maybe she'll be here today. So yeah, I think healthcare is probably the one I'm mostly excited about. The opportunities there.
Yeah, it's interesting because yeah, I lost my dad to cancer about 15 years ago. I can't, it
Mm,
feels like yesterday. It's so
I
weird. Anyway,
know.
but I think that too. I'm like, if they had caught it earlier or whatever, um, you know, having AI there would be helpful. Another thought that I had when you were talking was, even like the emergency room. Like we
Mm,
always hear about emergency rooms, just like there's like an 8-hour wait for things that are
mm.
not as crucial as other things. And it's almost like it would
Like the
be cool
triage process, right?
to use AI to like, help these people that, sometimes it's not actually an emergency and it's just like, hey, here's what you can do and like send them on their way. I'm wondering if that can help too, just to help ease the.
Yeah, she actually talked about that. She talked about I think one of the first priorities is how to reduce wait times. Um, and I think one of the use cases is exactly what you're describing, which is how to give even the power, because right now the problem is that every single person sitting in the wait room has to, they'll see a triage nurse, but they still have to wait for the doctor to figure out what the treatment plan is for that particular case.
Right,
They think that with the proper data and diagnosis being taken, a lot of that being AI, like let's say if you're coming with something very common, maybe you don't need that doctor in this moment. Maybe you can, maybe the nurses or the other staff can essentially help with those non-urgent cases and prioritize the really urgent cases to be seeing accelerated for the doctors. So very interesting. I mean, how it's going to play out, I will be very interested to see that. Um, I still hope I don't have to end up in emergency because right now, like you said, it's about what 6, 7 hours.
ugh.
And certainly don't go on weekends, right? So
No, yeah, don't get sick
yeah,
on the weekend.
that's
Yeah,
right.
save it for Tuesday afternoon.
That's right.
I don't know. Yeah, no, it's like that. I'm kind of the same. Like I'm hoping that from the healthcare, even like I've heard like a lot of industries that have historically been laggards when it comes to technology
Hmm.
adoption are actually using AI a lot rapidly than others, like financial services,
Hmm.
manufacturing, and healthcare. So yeah, that totally makes sense.
Well, she was complaining about the fact that, the doctors still use faxes, like I don't know why that's the case, or that, I don't know if it's because it's just so lagging in the technology, but yeah, it's time to
So
innovate for sure.
I changed doctors about 3 years ago, 4 years
Hmm.
ago, and my old doctor, like they had to transfer my files, and my old doctor sent a CD-ROM.
What's that? But I'm
And
glad it wasn't a cassette, like a five and a
uh
quarter t disc.
crazy, right? And my new doctor's like, she called me and like her receptionist called me. He's like,
You don't have a CD drive?
your old doctor sent us a CD-ROM. do you by chance have a CD drive? And I'm like, no, I don't. And they're like, we don't either. And I was like, call them back and tell them to like, get out of 1995. Like
Yeah,
send the files a different way. Like, come on, that's
yeah, I
ridiculous.
totally agree.
CD-ROM. But anyway, yeah, so it totally and actually we interviewed or I interviewed Colin Joseph in late May or early June, I think.
Hmm.
And he's a great guy and he's a sales exec at Tally AI.
Okay.
And they actually have made an AI platform for doctors.
Hmm.
So if you go to the doctor's office, the AI will record your meeting so the doctor doesn't have to take notes, that it'll like intuitively do a lot of the administration tasks so that it frees up your general practitioner to help you. So I
Hmm.
thought, like that kind of stuff is fantastic. It's kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning, like how when were preparing pitches, it just helps take that grunt work out.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool.
I
All right.
hope. Yeah.
Last question is the most important one. Stephen and I always like asking this one. What is the best sandwich in your opinion?
Well, I'm a little biased. I'm Polish, so
I am too.
I'll tell you a little bit about, we in Poland we call them kanapki, which really truly means a sandwich, but they're open face sandwiches. So they're open sandwiches, and it's not the bread on the top. Usually it's rye, but it's sourdough bread, with fresh butter, of course, straight from the cow. I'm just kidding, and then you got to put the Polish kielbasa on top, right?
Yeah,
That's the best. And then you just pile it whatever else you want. A little bit of onion, a little bit of cheese, a little
whatever's in
bit
the
of
fridge.
so it just usually looks like something like this. Any kind of so if you go to a Polish household during dinner times or like evening then you will notice these big platters with like open face sandwiches and called kanapki. They're delicious.
And so where do you get your kielbasa from in Toronto?
I live pretty close to Lakeshore and Etobicoke, and there's a couple Polish stores. So yeah,
Oh yeah, that's totally.
unfortunately I have access to a lot of Polish bread, and this is not good for me. Trust me.
I know there's a place where in my hometown called Ann's Deli in Oshawa and
Okay.
they amazing kielbasa. But I just, I can't buy the grocery store stuff. It's just kind of like an insult. So,
No, agreed, agreed. No, so you got to find your places, right? Your delicatessen. But yeah, I have one, and we go there too often. Let's just put it that way.
all
But
right.
yeah, I highly recommend it though. If you haven't tried, I recommend it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. And yeah, I'd love to I'll connect with you afterwards and make a date to like meet for coffee or lunch maybe in the fall.
Yeah,
But
I would love that. Oh, yeah, we should do that properly, right? We've
cool.
done the virtual thing a couple times, so
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Martin. I really appreciate it. And I'll
yeah,
talk to
thank you
you.
so much. I got to come back to your community site so I can start watching some of the past sessions because every time I talk to you, you always come up with some interesting interviews.
Yeah,
I'm like, I gotta start watching them.
I know everyone's busy, so come back when you have a spare minute for sure.
Will do, will do. Thank you again, Liz. Appreciate
Uh,
it.
talk to you soon.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Bye, guys.
Bye.